I want a divorce. My wife Cassandra said it without looking up from her phone. We were sitting at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten breakfast for 5 years, where we'd celebrated anniversaries, where I'd proposed to her. What? I managed to say. You heard me. I want a divorce. I've already contacted a lawyer. You'll be served papers tomorrow. She finally looked at me, and her eyes were cold. Empty. Like I was an inconvenience she was finally dealing with. Is this about money? Because I know things have been tight, but the startup is finally. It's always about the startup with you, isn't it? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Face it, Knox. You're never going to make it. 5 years of watching you chase this pathetic dream. I'm done being married to a failure. 3 months later, I sat across from her in a conference room for our divorce settlement. Her lawyer was smirking. She was dressed in designer clothes I'd never seen before, courtesy of her new boyfriend, a hedge fund manager named Trent. Then my lawyer slid a document across the table. Full financial disclosure, as required by law. Cassandra's face went from confident to confused to absolutely horrified as she read. This says you're worth $43 million. 43.7, actually, I corrected. My company went public 2 weeks ago. I've been waiting for this meeting to tell you. You won't believe what happened when the woman who left me for being poor realized she'd just divorced a multimillionaire. Justice must be restored and greed must be exposed. This is that story. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. This gets intense. My name is Knox Hartley, and 5 years ago, I married the woman I thought was my soulmate. Cassandra Vale was beautiful, ambitious, and when we met at a tech conference in Austin, I fell hard. She worked in marketing for a Fortune 500 company. I was a software engineer with dreams of starting my own business. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. She said yes without hesitation. The wedding was modest but perfect. We couldn't afford anything extravagant on our salaries, but we didn't care. We had each other, and that was enough. Or so I thought. The first year of marriage was good. We lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Seattle, both working full-time, saving money, planning our future. Cassandra would talk about the house we'd buy someday, the vacations we'd take, the life we'd build together. But I had a secret project. For 3 years, I'd been developing something revolutionary in my spare time. A data compression algorithm that could reduce file sizes by 70% without quality loss. It was my passion project, my moonshot, my ticket to building something meaningful. I told Cassandra about it 6 months into our marriage. I want to start a company, I said one night over dinner. Take this algorithm I've been working on and turn it into a real business. I think it could change everything about how we handle data storage and transmission. She was supportive at first. That sounds amazing, Knox. How much would you need to get started? I've saved $50,000. It's enough to build a prototype, maybe hire a part-time developer to help. I'd keep my job initially, work on it nights and weekends. $50,000? That's our house down payment. I know, but if this works, we could buy a house with cash. Multiple houses. This could be life-changing. She thought about it for a long time. Finally nodded. Okay, let's do it. I believe in you. Those words meant everything to me. I spent the next year building. Nights after work. Every weekend. I'd come home exhausted, eat a quick dinner, and disappear into our spare bedroom that I'd converted into an office. Cassandra would bring me coffee, kiss my forehead, tell me she was proud of me. But slowly, things changed. How much longer is this going to take? She asked after 8 months. I don't know. Software development isn't linear. Could be 3 months, could be a year. A year? Knox, we're living paycheck to paycheck. We never go out anymore. All our friends are buying houses, taking vacations, living their lives. I know it's hard, but this is going to work. I can feel it. She didn't look convinced. Year 2 was harder. I quit my full-time job to focus on the startup completely. We lived on Cassandra's salary and the last of my savings. Money was tight. Really tight. No restaurants. No new clothes. Canceling subscriptions to save $15 a month. The resentment started showing. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? She said after her company holiday party. Everyone asking what you do, and I have to say you're working on a startup. They look at me with pity, Knox. Like I'm supporting an unemployed husband who's playing entrepreneur. I'm not playing. This is real work. Real work pays bills. Real work doesn't have me eating ramen 4 nights a week while you chase some fantasy. It's not a fantasy. I've got interest from potential clients. I just need a few more months. It's always a few more months with you. But I kept going. Because I believed in what I was building. Even when Cassandra stopped bringing me coffee, stopped asking about my progress, stopped kissing me goodnight before I stayed up coding until 3 a.m. By year 3, we were roommates more than spouses. She'd leave for work before I woke up, come home, and go straight to the bedroom. We'd have dinner in silence when we had dinner together at all. I'd landed my first real client by then. A mid-sized company paying $20,000 annually for my compression software. It wasn't much, but it proved the concept worked. That's great, Cassandra said when I told her, her voice flat. Will that be enough to pay rent and groceries? It's a start. This validates everything I've been working on. Knox, wake up. $20,000 doesn't change anything. We're still broke. Still struggling. Still going nowhere. Rome wasn't built in a day. Oh my God, stop with the inspirational poster quotes. This isn't working. Admit it. You failed. That word hung in the air between us. Failed. I haven't failed. I'm just getting started. She laughed bitterly. You keep telling yourself that. Year 4 was when I noticed she was different. Coming home later. Dressing nicer for work. Constantly on her phone. Smiling at messages she'd quickly hide when I walked by. Is everything okay? I asked one night. Everything's fine. What? You just seem distant. Maybe I'm tired of being married to someone who has no ambition. No drive to actually succeed at something real. This is real. I'm building something. You're building nothing. You're a 32-year-old man living off his wife's salary, playing with computers in a spare bedroom. That's not ambition. That's a hobby. The words cut deep because part of me worried she was right. What if I was deluding myself? What if this was all a waste? But then I'd look at my code, at the clients I was slowly acquiring, at the technology that I knew was revolutionary, and I'd keep going. What I didn't know was that Cassandra had already checked out of our marriage, was already planning her exit, was already seeing someone else. Someone who drove a Porsche and wore Rolex watches and took her to restaurants I couldn't afford. But she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. The divorce demand came on a Tuesday. I'd just signed my 10th client, a streaming service paying $50,000 annually. Combined with my other clients, I was finally bringing in enough revenue to draw a modest salary. Not much, but enough to contribute to our household again. I was excited to tell Cassandra, to show her that her faith in me, faith that had long since evaporated, was finally being validated. Instead, I came home to find her sitting at the kitchen table, phone in hand, that cold expression on her face. I want a divorce. Everything I'd planned to say died in my throat. What? You heard me. I want a divorce. I've already contacted a lawyer. You'll be served papers tomorrow. Cassandra, what? Why? What's going on? She finally looked at me. Knox, I've been unhappy for years. You know that. This marriage is dead. Has been for a while. I'm just making it official. Is there someone else? She hesitated. Just for a second. Does it matter? Of course it matters. Fine. Yes. There's someone else. Someone successful. Someone with a real career and a real future. Someone who can actually take care of me. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. How long? 6 months. And before you go all self-righteous on me, you checked out of this marriage years ago. You chose your computer over me. You chose your startup over us. So don't act like I'm the villain here. I was building our future. No. You were chasing a fantasy while I paid the bills and waited for you to grow up. I'm done waiting. She stood up. My lawyer will be in touch. Oh, and Knox, don't bother trying to get any money from me in the settlement. You have no income, no assets, no prospects. The courts will see you for what you are, a failed entrepreneur who contributed nothing. She walked out. I sat there in the kitchen for 3 hours, numb. My marriage was over. The woman I'd loved had been cheating on me for months, and she thought I was a worthless failure. But here's what she didn't know. 2 weeks earlier, I'd received a call from a venture capital firm. They'd heard about my compression technology from one of my clients. Wanted to discuss investment opportunities. Mr. Hartley, we believe your technology has massive potential. We'd like to propose a significant capital investment in exchange for equity. We're thinking $50 million in series of funding for 30% of your company. I'd been negotiating with them in secret, not because I was hiding it from Cassandra, but because I wanted to surprise her, to prove that I wasn't a failure, that everything we'd sacrificed had been worth it. The deal was set to close in 8 weeks. which meant that when Cassandra served me with divorce papers, she had no idea that in 2 months, I'd be worth over $100 million. You won't believe what I discovered next. The divorce papers arrived the next day. I read through them carefully. She wanted the apartment, the furniture, her car, which I'd been making payments on, and fair compensation for supporting him financially during his failed business venture. Her lawyer had valued my company at minimal to no value, as it generates insufficient revenue and has no established market presence. I called my own lawyer immediately, someone I'd consulted about contracts for my startup. "Knox, I'm sorry about your marriage," Gerald said after I explained everything. "Let me review these papers." He was quiet for a long time. "This is aggressive. She's asking for a lot based on the assumption you have nothing. But I do have something. That VC deal I mentioned, it's closing in 6 weeks. Does she know about that?" "No one knows. It's been confidential." "Well, here's the thing about divorce law in Washington state. You have a duty to disclose all assets and income during divorce proceedings. If this deal closes before your divorce is final, you'll need to report it. And if she finds out I'm about to be worth millions?" Gerald laughed. "Then her entire strategy changes. Suddenly, she'll want reconciliation, or she'll fight for half of everything. Can we delay? Make sure she doesn't know until it's too late." "We can't hide assets, Knox. That's fraud. But we can be strategic about timing. If we drag out the divorce proceedings, request valuations, dispute her claims, add complexity, we might be able to ensure the settlement is based on your current situation rather than your future one. Do it. Make this divorce as slow and complicated as possible." What Cassandra didn't know was that I wasn't the same man she'd married. 5 years of being dismissed and belittled had taught me something valuable. Patience. Strategy. The long game. She thought she was divorcing a failure. She had no idea she was divorcing a future millionaire. And I was going to make sure she realized it at the worst possible moment. Over the next 6 weeks, I did 3 things simultaneously. First, I finalized my VC deal. $50 million in funding for 30% equity. The valuation put my company at over $160 million. My 70% stake was worth $112 million on paper. Second, I followed my lawyer's advice and made the divorce as complicated as possible. Disputed her claims about supporting me. Provided evidence that I'd contributed equally until I left my job. Requested independent valuations of all assets. Filed counter-motions to everything her lawyer proposed. Cassandra was furious. Her lawyer called mine weekly, demanding we stop the games and settle this quickly. "My client just wants this over with," her lawyer said. "Your client is clearly dragging this out because he's bitter." "My client wants a fair settlement," Gerald responded calmly. "Given that your client is demanding significant assets despite her own affair, we feel the need to be thorough." Third, I documented everything about Cassandra's new relationship. She'd moved in with her boyfriend Trent Richardson 3 days after serving me papers. Trent was exactly what you'd picture. Finance bro who drove a Porsche, wore expensive suits, and posted on Instagram about his luxury lifestyle. Cassandra was all over his social media. Designer dresses, expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Napa Valley and Aspen. Every post was a subtle flex about her new, better life. One photo caption read, "Finally with someone who knows how to treat a woman right. #upgrade complete #living my best life." The comments were brutal. "So glad you got away from that loser ex. You deserve a real man. Some people are just meant to be successful. Others aren't." It should have hurt. But instead, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Because I knew something Cassandra didn't. Every photo she posted. Every flex about her new rich boyfriend. Every subtle jab at her failure ex-husband. It was all being documented. Time-stamped. Saved. Little did she know, I was building a case. My company's IPO was scheduled for 12 weeks out. The venture capital had accelerated our growth exponentially. We'd gone from 10 clients to 200. From $50,000 in annual revenue to $8 million. The technology I'd spent 5 years perfecting was finally being recognized for what it was, revolutionary. But Cassandra only saw what I let her see. The guy still living in a small apartment. Still driving a 10-year-old Honda. Still wearing the same clothes he'd worn for years. She had no idea I was now paying myself a modest $60,000 salary deliberately. That I lived simply by choice, not necessity. that every dollar beyond my living expenses was being reinvested into the company. 8 weeks into the divorce proceedings, Cassandra's lawyer made an offer. We're willing to settle quickly if your client agrees to the following. Cassandra keeps the apartment, the furniture, and her vehicle. Your client pays $25,000 in compensatory support for the financial burden she bore during the marriage. In exchange, we expedite this process and both parties move on with their lives. Gerald presented this to me with a raised eyebrow. They're trying to close this fast. They think they're squeezing blood from a stone, and they want it done before you recover financially. Counter with this, I said. I keep my business and all related intellectual property. She keeps everything else. No spousal support in either direction. Clean break. Knox, you're giving her everything physical. The apartment alone is worth. I don't care. Let her have it. Let her think she won. Just make sure my business stays mine completely. That's all that matters. Cassandra's lawyer accepted immediately. We scheduled the final settlement meeting for 3 weeks out. The IPO was scheduled for 2 weeks out. Perfect timing. This is where it gets really good. The IPO happened on a Tuesday morning. I stood in my small apartment, watching CNBC coverage of the opening bell. My company, Data Crush Technologies, was going public at $32 per share. By noon, shares were trading at $67. My 70% stake, after dilution from the VC round, was worth $43.7 million. I was a multimillionaire. At 33 years old, after 5 years of being called a failure, I didn't celebrate, didn't tell anyone, just went about my day like normal, because I had one more week until the divorce settlement meeting. One more week where Cassandra would believe she'd divorced a broke entrepreneur with nothing. During that week, I did something calculated. I upgraded everything about my life. Bought a house in Madison Park. Paid cash. For bedrooms, view of Lake Washington. Nothing ostentatious, but undeniably nice. Bought a Tesla. Not a Porsche like Trent's, but a clear signal I could afford it. Hired a personal stylist and replaced my entire wardrobe. Still casual, but elevated. I made sure none of this was secret. Posted the house on social media. Drove the Tesla around our old neighborhood. Dressed well when I went to the gym Cassandra and I used to share. I wanted rumors to reach her. Wanted her to wonder, but not know for sure. 3 days before the settlement meeting, my phone rang. Cassandra. I let it go to voicemail. Knox, it's me. I heard you bought a house. And there are rumors you're doing well. Can you call me? I think we should talk before the settlement meeting. I didn't call back. 2 days before the meeting, she called again. Knox, seriously, call me back. People are saying your company went public? Is that true? We need to talk about this before we sign anything. I texted Gerald. She knows something. Try to move the meeting up if possible. He did. The meeting was rescheduled for the next day. The final settlement meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. Location, a conference room at Cassandra's lawyer's office. I arrived 15 minutes early, dressed in a perfectly fitted suit. Gerald was already there, looking satisfied. You look different, he said. Richer, I replied. Cassandra and her lawyer arrived exactly at 10. Trent was with her, playing the supportive boyfriend. She looked at me, and I saw the confusion on her face. I wasn't the same man she'd left. I looked confident, successful, like I'd leveled up. Knox, she said cautiously. You look good. Thank you. I tried to call you. I heard. Should we get started? Gerald interrupted. I know everyone wants this finalized. We sat down. Her lawyer pulled out the settlement agreement. The one where I gave up the apartment, the furniture, everything physical. She got it all. I kept my business. Before we sign, Cassandra's lawyer said, we need updated financial disclosures. It's required by law. Mr. Hartley, has your financial situation changed significantly since you filed your initial disclosure? Gerald smiled. It has. Substantially. He slid a document across the table. Cassandra picked it up, started reading. Her face went from curious to confused to absolutely horrified. This says you're worth $43 million. What they didn't know was that I'd been planning this moment for weeks. The look on her face would fuel me for years. The conference room was so quiet you could hear the clock on the wall ticking. Cassandra stared at the financial disclosure like it was written in a foreign language. Her lawyer grabbed it from her hands, reading frantically. Data Crush Technologies went public 2 weeks ago, Gerald explained calmly. Mr. Hartley owns 70% of the company. Based on current share price, his net worth is approximately $43.7 million. 43.7, actually, I corrected quietly. Cassandra's face went through a series of expressions. Shock, disbelief, horror, then, finally, rage. You knew, she whispered. You knew this was happening when I filed for divorce. I knew it was a possibility. A possibility. You're a millionaire, and you let me think. Let you think what? I kept my voice level. Let you think exactly what you already thought? That I was a failure? That my 5 years of work was worthless? Her lawyer jumped in. Mr. Hartley, if you had knowledge of this impending value increase when divorce proceedings began, you had a legal obligation to disclose. The IPO hadn't occurred yet, Gerald interrupted. My client disclosed his company's value based on the information available at that time. The company had minimal revenue and no established market value. The VC investment and subsequent IPO occurred during proceedings, which is why we're disclosing now, before the settlement is finalized. This is fraud. Cassandra's lawyer was turning red. You deliberately hid assets. We deliberately followed the law. Everything has been disclosed as required. The timing is unfortunate for your client, but it's legal. Cassandra wasn't listening to the lawyers anymore. She was staring at me with something that looked like devastation. Knox, wait. We can work this out. We don't have to get divorced. We can. We can fix this. I almost laughed. Fix what exactly? Our marriage. We made vows. For better or worse, remember? You served me with divorce papers 3 months ago. You've been living with your boyfriend for 2 months. You posted on Instagram last week about upgrading from your loser ex-husband. I kept my voice perfectly calm. Which part of that sounds like someone who wants to fix a marriage? Trent shifted uncomfortably. Cassandra shot him a look that said stay quiet. I was hurt, she said. I was angry. But I never stopped loving you. Yes, you did. You stopped loving me the day I quit my job to build something. You stopped loving me when I wasn't making enough money. You stopped loving me when I wasn't the successful image you wanted to present to your friends. That's not fair. You call me a failure. Multiple times. You told me I'd never amount to anything. You cheated on me with someone who had money. And the second I filed for divorce, you demanded I pay you for supporting me. Her lawyer tried again. Mr. Hartley, my client is clearly willing to reconsider the divorce. Perhaps we should table this discussion and— No, I said firmly. Sign the papers. This divorce is happening. Knox, please, Cassandra's voice broke. Please don't do this. We can start over. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw the desperation. The calculation behind her tears. She wasn't sorry she'd left. She was sorry she'd left too soon. You made your choice, I said quietly. You decided I wasn't worth staying with. That my dreams were worthless. That I was a failure. You don't get to unmake that choice just because the circumstances changed. But $43 million isn't yours. It's mine. Because I built it. Alone. While you were telling me to give up. While you were with him. I gestured to Trent, who was trying to disappear into his chair. Sign the papers, Cassandra. Take the apartment, the furniture, everything we agreed on. And let's both move on with our lives. But the best part was yet to come. Her lawyer wasn't giving up. Mr. Hartley, in Washington state, assets acquired during marriage are community property. Your company was started and grown during your marriage. My client is entitled to half. Gerald smiled. Normally, yes. But your client already agreed to a settlement. She agreed that Mr. Hartley would retain his business and all associated intellectual property in exchange for her receiving all physical assets. That agreement was made in writing. The only thing left is signing. But she didn't know the business was worth this much. And Mr. Hartley didn't know it would be worth this much either. The IPO could have failed. The stock could have tanked. These things are uncertain until they happen. The settlement agreement stands. Cassandra was crying now. Real tears this time. This isn't fair. This isn't right. You wanted this divorce, I reminded her. You couldn't wait to be free of me. Well, now you're free. Congratulations. I stood up, pulled out a pen, and signed the settlement agreement. Slid it across the table to her. Your turn. She stared at the papers. At the line where her signature would end our marriage and her claim to my fortune. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm letting you have exactly what you asked for. The life you wanted without me. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear. Probably that fighting this in court would be expensive and uncertain. that the settlement as written was actually legal and binding. Finally, with shaking hands, Cassandra signed. It was done. We filed out of the conference room. In the hallway, Trent caught up to me. "Dude," he said. "That was cold." I looked at him. "You slept with my wife while we were still married. I don't think you get to judge my coldness." He had the decency to look ashamed. Cassandra was waiting by the elevator, mascara running down her face. When she saw me, she tried one more time. "Knox, I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you. But please, can't we?" "No." I pressed the elevator button. "Move on with your life, Cassandra. I'm moving on with mine." The elevator arrived. I stepped in. As the doors closed, the last thing I saw was her face, realizing she'd just made a $43 million mistake. The story broke 3 days later. I didn't leak it. Didn't need to. Someone from the lawyer's office or the courthouse talked. These things always get out. Tech millionaire's ex-wife divorces him months before IPO, Seattle Times. The article didn't name us directly, but anyone in our social circle knew who it was about. A woman who'd left her husband for being a failure, only to finalize the divorce weeks after he became worth tens of millions. The internet had opinions. Reddit threads, Twitter discussions, even a TikTok video that went semi-viral breaking down the timeline. Imagine being this woman and realizing you gave up $40 million because you couldn't wait 6 more months. This is why you don't leave someone for money. Character over cash. The worst part? She was cheating on him while he was building something amazing. She deserves what she got. Not everyone was sympathetic to me. Some people thought I'd been deliberately deceptive, that I'd hidden my pending wealth to punish her. He knew he was going public and let her divorce him anyway. That's cold-blooded. She's a gold digger, but he's vindictive. I didn't respond to any of it. Didn't do interviews. Didn't defend myself publicly. But Cassandra did. She posted a long Instagram story about how the media gets everything wrong and people don't know the whole story. I supported Knox for years while he pursued his dream. I sacrificed so much. And when I finally decided to prioritize my own happiness, I'm the villain. The timing was unfortunate, but I had no idea about the IPO. I'm not a gold digger. I'm someone who was broken by an emotionally distant husband who cared more about his company than his marriage. The comments weren't kind. "Girl, you literally posted about upgrading from him 2 weeks before he became a millionaire. Take the L." Emotionally distant equals working 20 hours a day to build something. You wanted the success without the sacrifice. You're on social media flexing your new boyfriend's money while trying to play victim. Pick a lane. But here's what destroyed her more than any comment could. Her company fired her. Not officially for the divorce. But her employer, a company that prided itself on integrity and character, decided that the negative publicity around her wasn't worth keeping her on staff. "We've decided to go in a different direction," her boss told her. According to messages she sent mutual friends that eventually got back to me. Trent, her wealthy boyfriend, didn't handle the spotlight well either. Turns out he was married. Had been the whole time he was seeing Cassandra. His wife found out through the news coverage. Filed for divorce. Took him for half his assets in a state with different community property laws. Karma worked fast. Within 6 weeks of our divorce being finalized, Cassandra had lost her job. Her boyfriend was getting divorced and losing millions. She'd become a cautionary tale on the internet. Our mutual friends had chosen sides, and most chose mine. If you're enjoying watching someone face the consequences of their choices, hit that subscribe button. The sweetest moment came from an unexpected place. A journalist reached out asking if I'd do an interview about success after doubt. I agreed. Did a thoughtful piece about building a company while people dismissed your vision. About staying focused when it seemed impossible. About how the people who believe in you matter more than the people who don't. The journalist asked about my ex-wife. I don't hold any anger toward her, I said honestly. She made the choice that was right for her at the time. It's unfortunate timing, but that's life. I hope she finds happiness. Taking the high road drove her crazy, according to friends who still talk to her. She'd expected me to be bitter, angry, to trash her in public. Instead, I was gracious, successful, unbothered, which made her look worse by contrast. 6 months after the divorce, Cassandra tried one last thing. She filed a motion to reopen the divorce settlement, claiming fraud by omission and inequitable distribution based on misrepresented asset value. Her new lawyer argued that I'd had insider knowledge of my company's upcoming value and had deliberately hidden it to deprive her of her fair share. Gerald called me the day the motion was filed. She's desperate. This is a Hail Mary, but we need to take it seriously. We went to court. Cassandra showed up with her new lawyer, looking determined. The judge reviewed the case, read through the timeline, examined the evidence. Ms. Vale, the judge said. You're arguing that your ex-husband knew his company would be successful at the time of your divorce. Yes, Your Honor. He was negotiating with venture capitalists. He knew an IPO was planned. He deliberately withheld that information. And what evidence do you have that he had definitive knowledge of success? Venture capital deals fall through. IPOs fail. Many startups go public and collapse. Her lawyer stammered. The circumstantial evidence suggests nothing concrete. Mr. Hartley disclosed all required information at the time it was required. The subsequent success of his company is not evidence of fraud. But, Your Honor, the timing. The timing is unfortunate for your client. But poor timing is not fraud. Your client chose to file for divorce, chose to settle quickly, chose to accept the terms offered. She can't now claim fraud simply because she regrets those choices. The judge dismissed the motion. As we left the courtroom, Cassandra tried to talk to me one more time. Knox, please. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. But you have so much money now. Couldn't you just help me? For old time's sake. I stopped, looked at her, saw someone who'd once been the center of my world, now desperate and grasping. Cassandra, I gave you exactly what you asked for. You wanted to be free of me. You wanted out of this marriage. You got both. What you didn't get was my success, because you didn't believe in it. You don't get to cherry pick which parts of me you want to be associated with. I made a mistake. Yes, you did. And that mistake cost you. But that's not my problem to fix. I walked away. That was the last time she tried to contact me. Over the next year, I watched from a distance as she rebuilt her life. She moved to a different city, got a new job, started over. I hope she learned something. Hope she found someone who valued her. Hope she realized that timing isn't everything, character is. As for me, I took my success and did something with it. I established a foundation that gives grants to entrepreneurs who are struggling to get their businesses off the ground. People like I'd been. People who have vision but no resources. People who have partners who don't believe in them. The first grant I gave out was $50,000. The exact amount I'd saved and risked on my own dream. Every recipient gets the same message. Someone believed in me when I needed it most. Now I believe in you. Don't let anyone tell you your dream is